Welcome back to TFG Truth, folks. I'm Mike and along with my partner, Mike Peraza. Today in this special edition, we're very pleased, in fact, very grateful to have TPUSA contributor Jon Root with us. Jon, we can't thank you enough for joining us, and we're really excited to pick your brain on a few things today.
Well, thanks so much. I know we got a lot to talk about, so I'm honored that you guys have me on.
Yeah, our TFG Truth podcast, we use this mantra of reporting facts, exposing hypocrisy, and espousing common sense. So I think with these topics today, we're going to be hitting exactly where the mantra is for our podcast. So again, thank you for joining us.
Let's start, Jon, with college campuses, because I know you guys do a lot on college campuses, whether it be, conservative movements on college campuses. I know you guys have had tables there at certain campuses across the country. I know you work a lot with young conservatives, right? So that being said, liberals are not really necessarily fans of yours, not I mean you specifically, but Turning Point USA, right? Can you talk a little bit about your experience and the Turning Point USA experience with college campuses and college students and, maybe some of the hurdles or issues you guys have faced over the past couple years?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we have a lot of speakers that go on these campuses that get invited by TPUSA chapters. I know Will Witt was just on a campus yesterday, and he had some people shouting him down, and then you also hear about just different TPUSA contributors that go to these campuses, and nobody wants to listen. Obviously, the libs over here, they don't want to listen to anything we have to say. All they're going to do is shout you down. You see what happened on ASU's campus, too. Someone gets out a cell phone, and all they want to do is go viral. They don't want to have a real discussion. So luckily, we have chapter leaders on these campuses with Turning Point USA that are really putting their neck out on the line. There's a lot of people attacking our TPUSA chapters. Like, they're flipping over these tables. They're trying to call them fascists while they're flipping over a table and shouting people down. So it doesn't really make too much sense. But I'm honestly always so inspired by these students on campus because I didn't have to deal with that when I was in college, and definitely didn't have to deal with that when I was in high school. So a lot of these kids are realizing that they're fighting these battles that their older siblings or their parents really didn't have to fight. And it's a really, really tough battle consistently, day in and day out. But there's a lot of kids that want to spread the truth, and they want people to know about what Turning Point USA is all about. We're not some racist organization that hates people, and that's obviously it's a very just simple leftist rhetoric and narrative that people are always going to try to use. Everything's racist, everything's some systemic problem. But there's a lot of kids out there that want people to know about the true history of our country, what makes America great, and really how privileged we are to be in this country. So I've had a lot of great interactions with students, mostly at our events, because I've only been a contributor and with Turning Point USA for so long. But a lot of those events, I've had conversations with kids where their DMs are just filled with a lot of hate. They have to deal with a battle every single day, and I'm proud of these kids, and it's honestly very, very inspiring.
It's interesting, so the fact that their parents, maybe their aunts, uncles, grandparents never had to experience this, that makes it even more inspirational, right? I mean, these are kids that they could probably just turn their cheek to it and just say, I'll just focus on my education, party a little bit. Not going to worry about all that stuff. It's pretty cool. The other thing is the loving left, right? We just love that they're the loving left, the compassionate side, and they're not willing to listen.
Kind.
They're so kind.
And the best part is they're inclusive to all, right? They're inclusive to everyone, yet they're inclusive to no one that thinks differently than them. It's really amazing.
It's the opposite of inclusion. It's like, it's so easy to just side with the people who think exactly like you. I mean, the real challenging part is the part about debating and saying, you know what, here we are at a college campus of all places, for goodness sake. Why don't we talk about these things? Maybe I'll lean a little more your way. You can lean a little more my way. We'll get along, and it just doesn't seem to happen.
Well, that's the thing with these college campuses. We expose a lot of these liberal teachers on campus with Professor Watch List. And it's coming from the top down, and they're telling kids things are either good or they're evil. And if you put somebody in a box, you think they're evil, they're not worth the discussion. That's what they're trying to tell these kids. So don't even have dialogue at all. And just shout people down because you have some sort of moral high ground. And it's obviously this postmodernistic idea of, I know what the truth is, it's my truth, accept it, and gender's fluid, everything's racist and it can be dumbed down to some sort of systemic problem, but it comes from the top down, and these kids aren't taking it anymore.
And I think what's amazing to me is you say this all the time, like they're turning these issues into black and white issues, and I don't mean race when I say that. Like it's either this way or that way, and there's no in between at all. And a lot of the conservative-minded people, especially with like COVID and whatnot, we're not trying to do anything that's outrageous. Just, hey, can we make our own choice on getting a vaccine, right? Hey, maybe we shouldn't leave the border wide open just so anybody can come. I mean, it's not we're not bad people, right? We're not asking for, to just, I guess not be inclusive to people. I'm inclusive to everybody, but at a certain point, like dollars and cents matter, personal beliefs matter. Like these things are important issues that they just don't see anything, nope, that's not how it is. It's our way or the highway.
I mean, we talk about this, about the complexity of issues require a complexity of solutions, and they often just don't see it that way, as Mike just said. So what do you think about that? Do you think it's just easier for them to be that way? Or do you think it's really, a planned kind of attack against conservative thinking?
Well, it's definitely a planned attack, but also it's way easier to have this idea that you have some sort of moral high ground, that you already know everything, and that if society's pushing back on how you feel, those are the oppressors. It's broken down to either you're oppressed or you're an oppressor. But here, it's like, hey, we can have dialogue, and it's okay to agree to disagree. And it's also okay, everybody needs to know this, it's okay to say, I don't know. Like, a lot of people forget that concept. If we're having these tough, complex conversations, especially about like COVID, something here, we know a lot of the stats, and then we know about natural immunity, and then we know about medications that you can take when you get COVID. But it's okay to say, I don't know about all the facts about police brutality. So when you have people like LeBron James come out and say that black people are hunted once they leave their door, like, obviously you can shoot down that argument quick, but hey, let's try to get down to the stats. What do the facts say? Just like you guys are on your program, you want people to know the truth. It's okay to say, hey, I don't know. Let's look this up together and stop having these emotional arguments and start having logical arguments, because that's what we're seeing all the time from the left. They have so much emotion, and you don't win an emotional argument. You basically just tell somebody, it's like maybe some relationships I've had. It's like, you're just kind of emotional right now, babe.
Absolutely.
I think I'm going to step back.
Yeah, that always works, John, doesn't it?
It never works. Obviously, I haven't learned. But
I'll try that with my wife tonight. Stop being emotional, all right? I'll get to that.
Relationship advice from Jon Root. Please don't. But when you're having these emotional arguments, you don't win. Whoever's the most emotional is just going to shout somebody down, and that's the way it works. We got to get to logic, we have to get the stats, and we have to get the facts.
No doubt.
And I think we live in a country of hot takes, right? Like whoever has the hottest take seems to get the most publicity for it. And you look at, using a simple thing, how many rumors come out about a sports injury that are completely not even correct, right? But one thing on Twitter and it goes viral, right? And I think that's what's so hard, is that most people don't do their own research, right? I would say, I'm making this stat up, so here's a hot take for you. But 80% of people probably don't even do research and see an article headline or see a tweet and that's got to be fact, right? And I think that's where we're losing so much in this country. Nobody does their homework. Nobody cares to be an expert or know what they're talking about. They just shoot off hot takes like it's going out of style.
Well, I say this all the time. So many people want things in 140 characters. I don't want to do the research, break it down for me, present it to me here in just a little tweet, and I'm not going to read the articles. I'm not going to scour the internet. I'm not going to have conversations. Everything in 140 characters, tell me how it is. And it's unfortunate because we just live in this society where we have so much information at our fingertips, but I think we might be the dumbest we've been in a very, very long time.
You kind of alluded to this. It's so easy but highly ineffective to use that 140 character approach. And it breaks down relationships. It breaks down the debating you can have. It breaks down everything. So I completely agree with you. Before we move on to the sports world, we wanted to ask you about the two white male students on ASU, in an ASU multicultural room. And how do you think they handled that? Because that was infuriating to us to see that. Do you think they handled themselves pretty well?
Yeah, I feel like the kids handled themselves fairly well. Obviously, you have a kid there the initial one where he had the Police Lives Matter sticker on his laptop, you could tell he was taken back. He was just like, holy smokes. Like, obviously, you put something like that on your laptop, you understand that there's going to be a visceral reaction from someone that's left-leaning. And then especially, too, there's got to be an idea that, obviously, I totally agree with this kid. Definitely make sure people know that police lives matter, because a lot of people like dumbing down the police, that they're got some sort of systemic problem, that the police are all white people that hate the black community. But he definitely had to have known that you go into the Multicultural Center, that you might get a reaction to that. But the way he reacted, I felt like it was fine. And he kind of let this crazy lady talk, and he was just like, what are you talking about? Explain yourself. And that's the funniest thing too, when you ask these people that are behind a phone trying to go viral, can you explain yourself? I know I saw another video of Michael Knowles the other day that just resurfaced on the internet. People are trying to shout him down on a campus. He's like, hey, like, what problem did you have with what I said? And nobody has something to say. But I felt like that kid reacted well. You obviously got another one that said, or he had a shirt that said, did not vote for Biden. So obviously you wear something like that, you got to know you're going to get some sort of reaction. But I thought he acted in the right, where he had his own phone out. He's like, I can't believe it. We're getting kicked out right now. You're telling us to leave. And it's so funny. The reaction from the girls, they were saying, well, no, we're not telling you to leave. We're just telling you we don't feel safe and comfortable, and you got to go. So it's like,
so again, the oppressed versus the oppressor.
Yeah, but obviously this video went viral, and I thought the kids reacted well. And I thought the best part of this video, with hopefully a lot of people made it to the end of that, there's a very lengthy clip, and then there's one that went viral that's shorter. There's an Asian kid that comes over and defends the two. So I think a lot of people are forgetting about him. We're focusing on these two white kids there that I feel like reacted fairly well and did exactly what they needed to do. They didn't lash back out. They weren't calling them names. They weren't getting into that emotional side that the left loves to get into. But this Asian kid that came over and defended them, there needs to be more kids like that. And we actually, I think, need to focus on the Asian kid that said, what's your problem? Yeah. Like, what problem do you actually have with these guys? And they are allowed to be here as well. This isn't just some multicultural center that's just for specific races, not just for Asians or blacks. Like, these people can be here, and I think we need more people like that Asian kid.
But John, two things I'd say that too. I mean, I know you don't agree with not you and I, but somebody with the Police Lives Matter sticker or the I didn't vote for Biden shirt. But that would never, if somebody said I had a I voted for Biden shirt or a Black Lives Matter sticker on their computer, I'm not going to go and start a ruckus about it. I mean, that's your opinion. You can have that. Unless you're, doing something towards me that's inappropriate, I'm not going to say a word. So I don't understand why these people look for that stuff. Like, they probably saw that sticker and were just floored. I couldn't imagine getting floored by a guy that said, I voted for Biden on my shirt. I'd be like, that's an interesting, good for you. But I mean, and on the flip side of that, what is a multicultural center at college campuses? I was only in college 10 years ago. There were not black and white areas at my college. There were not multicultural centers. Maybe it was called that or something, but it was not I'm a white male, I can't walk in there. I'm just a little confused on when these started to come up and where they came from.
Well, right now, too, everybody thinks this is some sort of civil rights movement again. Obviously, I wasn't born in the 60s, so I can only read history books and watch documentaries and talk to people that grew up during that time. But we do know that we are the freest we've ever been, and we're the least racist we've ever been. But people really do believe this is some sort of civil rights movement, maybe part 2 of the 60s. So people are so angry, and you see it during COVID time, too, where people from the left are saying, hey, the unvaccinated and people that don't wear masks, I hope they die. You don't hear anybody from the right saying, oh, if you're wearing a mask or you get the vaccine, we might not agree with that. And there's also a lot of people from both sides that are wearing masks or getting the vaccine, but I have not heard anybody on the right that says, I hope that person dies. And that's what it turns into. It's a good and evil, and it's these people deserve to live, these people deserve to die, and it's disgusting.
It's a great way to put it.
Yeah, I agree. Let's move on to the sports world. We all like sports here.
Oh, I love sports.
It's a lot of fun. I mean, it's a great escape, and I even with the political sort of slant that a lot of the sporting events have now sort of I guess folded in. I'm trying to ignore it. I'm trying to still enjoy it, just like I try to enjoy certain music, certain actors and actresses, even if they seem absurd when you hear them. But what made you feel like sports is going to be a place you really want to kind of stay tuned into in terms of like conservative versus liberal and so forth?
Well, sports used to be the most unifying outlet we've ever had. I mean, even look at the Olympics. You're able to get these countries together, and usually countries that are at war or really hate each other, and we come together in this sense of competition. We just want to see the best man or woman win, and definitely not a man in a woman's sport. But
that's a whole other podcast.
But we love sports because it's been that outlet, and I think that's what a lot of us were looking to during the pandemic. I mean, I worked in sports my entire professional career. Before I started working for Turning Point USA, I was a host and reporter for the San Jose Sharks in the Bay Area. I did some work for the Golden State Warriors organization, and I loved sports because we could just come together because sports, when you look at the stands, you look at the bleachers, you have people from every sort of ethnic background, every sort of socioeconomic background, religion, whatever gender they want to be. It really doesn't matter. You're either rooting for this team or that team, or you just go into a sports game and you want to have a good time. So it used to be an amazing unifying outlet, but during the pandemic, when we were desperately looking for an outlet away from all the death numbers we're hearing about on the news and all the division we see in our country, we needed an outlet, and sports let us down. But I think sports has slowly started to turn leftist for probably close to, I would say, 10, 15 years especially. And I could obviously dive into where I think the turning point was of sports, but I really do believe sports can get saved and it can be a unifying outlet again.
I had the opportunity to go down to Miami to see the Bills play in Miami, and to your point, we had such a blast, even with some of the Dolphin fans. I mean, you know, it was a pretty good, you know what whipping of the Dolphins, and
always a good time.
We just had a lot of fun.
Bills Mafia, that's right.
Oh man, it was a great time. Even after the game, like going to a place down there, it was like a cigar and whiskey lounge, and there were people from not only just from Miami and Buffalo, but from Washington D.C. Some people did come from Tucson, Arizona, to see the Bills, and I'm thinking, you know, in this to this point, I mean, in Florida, it's still pretty safe, you know, in their opinion, for us to make our choice to show up at the games, not be, you know, vax card, you know, masked and all that. But here in Buffalo, I mean, it's getting nuts. It's getting like the Bills, the Sabres, they're all starting to say, hey, without a vaccine, you're not going to be able to enter our premises anymore. And I just wonder, like, at what point is it going to change? Is it going to change?
Before you say anything to that, John, I was going to say, too, they went from game one was, you know, they said you were supposed to wear a mask if you're unvaccinated in common areas, whatever. But then it went to a complete 180 in 2 days to you need to be vaccinated or you can't come into the stadium or the Bills or the Sabres games. There was no data or science to make that happen other than a few pictures by a couple people that were probably sent there to take photos because there were photos everywhere of unmasked. I mean, this stuff doesn't add up anymore, and it doesn't make any sense. There has not been an uptick in Buffalo or Rochester. I don't know where this stuff comes from other than power.
Yeah, and then everybody is just looking at a headline. Everybody has their own assumption of what this time is going to be, that you fill up a stadium, that COVID cases are going to rise. Just look at college football. Like Dr. Fauci, obviously flip-flopping Fauci, said that COVID was going to feast on college football fans. For us, we look at that and we see Penn State's got their whiteout. Everybody's going to the Florida Gators game, and stadiums are obviously chanting stuff that I won't mention. But he was saying that COVID's going to feast on these college football fans. And you know what, Dr. Fauci? Cases were down in every single state, every single area, every single SEC school. And then now, too, it's just a form of segregation. People can't even go and enjoy their team play anymore. So you're talking about the Buffalo Bills. Obviously, Cole Beasley, I feel like, has done an incredible job.
Awesome.
No
awesome.
doubt.
He
No
has
doubt
been
about it.
amazing, and he hasn't backed down. And it's a tough thing because there's a lot of people that aren't in his position. They aren't veterans, so they aren't able to bring this kind of stuff up and not get traded, not get cut. But when a Bills fan reached out and said, hey, I want to take my 10-year-old daughter to the game, but we found out we have to be vaccinated, I don't know what to do. Cole Beasley steps up, says, hey, whatever road game you want to go to, I'll get you tickets. And I think we need more Cole Beasleys.
And I think just on this point, too, these schools, because some of them are requiring vaccination for not only school but to go to sporting events. Obviously, we just talked about the Bills now requiring it. Seattle, the Seahawks require it. A couple at New Orleans. I was going to go to the Thanksgiving Day game because the Bills play down there. Can't do that now. I also had to give up my Bill season tickets because I can't go there. It's unreal. And, you know, why are they not allowing negative tests? We were talking about that this morning.
Right.
It's that might actually be safer to test people before they go into a stadium to make sure they're not sick. Because as we've all learned, just because you're vaccinated, at the end of the day, doesn't mean a damn thing because you can still get the virus and pass it to people, right? Why are they not looking at negative test results or antibody results, right? Like that's another thing, natural immunity. We'll get into that a little bit. But why is that not even considered or talked about, right? It's like voodoo. You can't talk about it.
Well, it's about compliance and it's about power. That's it. So I might be jumping ahead of the schedule and the program here, but Bradley Beal coming out in a press conference yesterday saying, "Hey guys, so like let's talk about this." So people like Jonathan Isaac, he had COVID. You have people like Cam Newton that had COVID. They got antibodies. There's natural immunity. And when Bradley Beal comes out and just says, hey, like, can we talk about this? Like, people that have been vaccinated can still get COVID. And you're trying to tell the unvaccinated that they're the problem and that they're going to keep this pandemic going. So can you guys riddle me that? Can you guys explain this to me? Journalists have no idea how to explain this. Leagues have no idea how to defend it. But this is where you have players' associations that need to step up. Obviously, that's just specifically for the players, and I think the NBA Players Association's done a good job. But there needs to be some people that step up for the fans because there's plenty of fans out there that want to go watch the Las Vegas Raiders. They want to go watch the Buffalo Bills. And why have we had such a drastic turn? Because I'm living in Phoenix now. I went to the first round of the playoffs, Suns, Lakers. Nobody had to wear a mask. There was no vaccine requirement, and the place was packed. But now you're trying to tell these players, last season you didn't have to get vaccinated, but now you do, and if you don't get it, you're going to miss half your team's games. Fans, you might have gone to the game last year and had to fill out this little COVID questionnaire, but now you're forced to get a vaccine. But people need to step up, and there needs to be leaders in these cities that represent the people that say this is wrong, because we need to have these kind of conversations. But I think it's literally about power and compliance. That's absolutely it.
Yeah. My hope and my optimism is that they're trying to go so far with this, but it won't go as far as they wish it would, that it will make its way back to something that everyone can agree to, you know? Like you said, Mike, about the natural immunity. Listen, if I can show you proof that I had the darn virus, like, can I get into the game? If I can show you that my doctor, you know, said it's really not to your benefit to take this vaccine at this time, you know, like a pregnant woman, my goodness, you're going to say, hey, you know, Miss Smith, you know, you're 4 months into a pregnancy, you've got season tickets to the games, and you're not going to be allowed to go? Like, are you kidding me? Like, that's my hope, I guess, that they don't stay this staunch in their thoughts about this, but that it makes its way back a little bit more to center.
Well, and one thing I'll say too, and I'm sure you saw this, John, I forgot if it was like the Blue Jackets or one of the hockey teams. They had a guy that won't get the vaccine. They're not allowing him to go to training camp. They're not allowing him to potentially play in the big league, right, for that year, but they're going to let him play in the AHL. Like, what is the difference, right? Like, less fans in the stadium, sure, but what is the difference there? If you're going to just let if we're the problem, the unvaxxed folks, if you're just going to let the AHL team die and wither away, but you're not going to let I mean, it doesn't make any sense. Like, why would you allow one and not the other?
Well, it's about optics, too. Like, you see the situation with the Red Wings. Bertuzzi came out and said, hey, I'm I'm not going to get the vaccine. And then you have the GM, Iserman, that's saying, like, who am I to push the vaccine on this guy? He can choose for himself. But just like I brought up earlier with Cole Beasley, he's a veteran. He's got a good amount of money. He's got a good amount of influence. But there's a lot of guys here that are trying to make the league, and they're trying to get up to the upper echelon of their sport. People will be blown away by the conversations I have with people on a weekly basis that are trying to make it to the big leagues. And they're being told, and they're being told, hey, if you want to make it up to the tippy top of this league, you got to get the vaccine. There's absolutely no other options whatsoever. And they're also their tactic is disgusting too. They're pulling people off to the side, and they're going one-on-one. And a lot of these players are being told, you're the only person on this team that hasn't been vaccinated. And it's manipulative, and it's frankly, it's disgusting. But you have players like Bertuzzi, going back to him, he's going to lose hundreds of thousands of dollars. He has to go and practice by himself. He has to get his own transportation to the hotel and the airport. So a lot of people just don't have that option. So when you have these players that are being forced to go play in the AHL, they're like, well, I've been working my whole life to get into the NHL.
And here I am.
How do I fight this battle? What do I do? I got to weigh the pros and cons. And then unfortunately, some people just get so exhausted and they aren't getting the help from the Players Association that they have to just get the vaccine.
Yeah. Many of my clients are now coming in and seeing me and saying, listen, we had these ideas about, some further investment, but now we're really worried. I'm a nurse. And these people literally, they spent, thousands and thousands of dollars on their education, their commitment to helping people, frontline workers. And here they are being told, listen, if you're not vaxxed, you're out. And I'm thinking, these are the very people, when we didn't know exactly what this whole virus was and how to treat it, and it was, could have been largely more deadly. These are the people that were stepping up and reporting at, the wee hours of the night and helping people that were coughing and, hacking up who knows what. And now they're being told, you're out of a job. It's actually very disgusting to me. And that's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping the sentiments are that more people stand up and say, we can't do this. Like, this is absolutely ridiculous.
And like you said, John, at that point, with nurses, you go to school for that, just like athletes, they play football at Alabama or wherever, right? They don't have anything else to go to on an entry-level contract if they get cut, right? That's what they've known that, this about sports. Since they've been 8 years old, they've been in sports, and that's what they know, right? And we're fortunate enough, the two of us, to own our own business and to be able to say, you know what, I'm not going to make my staff do that. I'm not going to do that. And if you don't want to work with me, don't work with me. A lot of these nurses, these athletes, you name it, federal contractors, they don't have that luxury to just be like, go screw, right? They don't have it. And it's really sad because you're ruining people's lives hour by hour.
Yeah, and then you guys expose the hypocrisy all the time on your program. And you see places like San Francisco, they have a vaccine mandate there, but the mayor of San Francisco, London Breed, can go see her favorite band and say,
feeling the spirit.
Filled with
I wasn't wearing a mask. I don't have to follow these crazy requirements and mandates. Like, I'm feeling the spirit. It's just like, if your religious exemption isn't working, the feeling the spirit exemption, I heard, is being accepted all across the country. So make sure you utilize that. But you have leaders that are saying, Tony was there. I mean, come on. Like,
come on. Yeah, I know, right.
But it's that kind of hypocrisy the left-wing media wants to just absolutely squash. And then they want the unvaccinated to be the problem. And that's what they're doing with players. That's what they're doing with fans. And frankly, people need to stop just talking about it. And you need to figure out a way to work with your leaders and put petitions together and fight against this stuff and throw this stuff out on social media too. Try to make a difference, because we can talk. We talked a lot about social media censorship for years, and then look at what happened in the election this last year, and look what happens consistently, people getting deplatformed. So talking about it's great, but if we're actually taking action, that's going to make the change. That's going to make the difference.
Yeah, and the left, I like how they pretend then to say that, they wonder, why is there such vaccine hesitancy?
Yeah.
Geez, I wonder too.
Well, before we go to immigration too, you said, just say you're spiritual about the music or whatever you're in. We interviewed Seth Dillon of the Babylon Bee a couple weeks ago, and it was funny with him. They had the shirt that said, "I identify as vaccinated," right? So it's the same type of thing, right? Like, imagine if we actually played that card like these people play that card all the time, right? I'm feeling a spirit, or I identify as this. It doesn't fly for some reason. We can't get away with that. We absolutely get pummeled. Let's go to immigration quick. Everybody and their mother in this country needs to get a vaccine, right? There's just no way around it. You have to do it, or you're a murderer, or you're a horrible person. We know that. But for some reason, illegal immigrants coming across the border, no, nothing to see here. They can just walk right in. Some of them aren't even being tested from what reports are showing. Why the difference between us, people, the three of us, and everybody else that we associate ourselves with, and illegal immigrants? What is the difference?
Well, a few things. First off, those are voters for the left. And they know that. They know that obviously the border's more open than Jada and Will Smith's relationship right now, which is pretty wide open. But they know that those people will vote for them. A lot of these people already had asylum in Chile. And you have 15,000 Haitian immigrants that are just rolling through. And Secretary Mayorkas, he's saying, well, the problem is the Border Patrol agents. They're whipping them. Yeah. But they're opening these borders because people will vote for their leftist policies. They will vote for a leftist president, and they know that they now have allegiance from these people. And obviously, they try to make this into some sort of humanitarian issue that, like, these people need our help and we have to let them in. No, there is a process, and it's an absolute slap in the face to people that have done it the right way. I know my brother lives out in Australia. Obviously, that's a whole nother conversation. But in general, he had to go through the process to get citizenship out there. That takes a while. And you actually have to assist society and do something to help out that community. And these people are just waltzing in, and they're able to get away with not having a vaccine. They're not getting tested. And obviously, taxpayer dollars are being used to help transport them different places, have these court cases. And
we don't even know where they're going either.
Yeah, of course.
I mean,
well, and you're a border state, so you must see a whole bunch of that activity right in your own state, right? I mean, if the folks decide to stay right in the local vicinity, you must be seeing this, right in your own communities.
Yeah, I've seen it in Phoenix. I know I saw it a lot. I'm originally from California, and I went to school in Southern California. I saw it a lot there. Obviously living fairly close to San Diego, and it's an absolute epidemic. And if you don't want people coming in, you have to have strong borders. And strong borders is an America First policy, but we're not seeing America First policies from this administration whatsoever. And Americans need to open their eyes and understand what's going on here, because this is hurting you, no matter if you're from the right or the left. Sure, let's try to figure out how to help these people, but do it in the legal way, because there's a lot of people in this country that are paying the price financially, physically, or even there's people that have gone through some major physical abuse, and you also have illegal immigrants that have come in, and some of these people just really aren't good people. They're working with cartels, and they're trying to infiltrate just drug smuggling. And we had a few different law enforcement officers on TPUSA Live the other day talking about just that. Not every single one of these people are bad people. Sure, we can't paint with a broad brush, but in general, it's got to be done the right way. And there's also a crazy hypocrisy. We have to have these people tested, and they have to go through the legal process. If not, it's a slap in the face to Americans all across the country.
We're actually interviewing Sheriff Daniels next week, Mark Daniels from Arizona, so he'll give us some insight on that too. Last question of the day. I saved the hardest and toughest question for last. Where is Kamala Harris?
Well,
do you know?
Last time I checked, she
like, where's Waldo?
She was
Find Waldo in the picture,
but she was in a side room at the View studio.
Yes.
But it's the border czar. Yeah, it literally.
Hey, John, or was she? Or was she? Maybe she wasn't.
Man, was she?
The mystery is like it's just it's bursting with mystery here.
Yeah, there's not enough people are asking that question. It's like, hey, you're the border czar, and you're talking about oh man, it's so sad to see what's going on the border with these border patrol agents whipping these migrants, and they're illegal immigrants on the onset. We have to call them that. But she's being coddled and she's being protected, and she is the one we are supposed to look to secure the border. And no one.
Why have we not forced a retraction though on that border patrol people whipping migrants or illegal, because that is proven now to not even be close to true, right? Why is that still even a thing that you can find online? It's like that should have been an apology riddled, statement from every organization and the president and vice president.
Yeah, but you also see what happened with Hunter Biden's laptop.
Well,
you have the New York Times come out and say, "Hey, that was just some sort of misinformation campaign." Like it's literally, these people are lying to you. These media outlets are lying to you, and people need to open your eyes, because people are so stuck. I mean, I really feel like on both sides. Obviously, I feel like on the right we're a little bit more rational, a lot more rational, but you see a story like this from the New York Times talking about Hunter Biden's laptop. It's like, we have seen the footage. We've seen the documents. Like, this was left at this computer repair store for a long time, and now it's their property. And we've seen this. It does not matter what you say, New York Times. This influenced the election, and you censored information from the New York Post that shared this story. And that's what's happening, is you have the media that isn't held accountable. Luckily, you have people like Peter Doocy from Fox News. I love watching him grill Jen Psaki every single day. That's one of the best rivalries I've ever seen.
It is. It is good. Yeah.
It's a totally unfair rivalry, because Peter just absolutely just destroys her all the time. But you have people like that are sharing the truth and asking the tough questions, and that's what we need to see. And we need to see more conservative influencers make sure they're sharing the truth, and having programs like yours that are sharing the truth and making sure people have the right information. Because basically, we just want this country to get back to being unifying again. We want people to know the truth and stop trying to just divide with these crazy theologies you have. I can go off.
I thought you were going to say theatrics.
I did too. I was going to say
that
right
actually
too.
would apply. I do. I feel like I'm watching theater most of the time.
Oh, that's what it is. It's all drama. That's all it is. And they're trying to just absolutely just have stuff that's going to be a good headline and stuff that goes viral on social media. We are living in a clown world, and we are almost living in the Truman Show, it feels like at times.
It's ridiculous. Jon, I'd love to talk to you again, too, down the road about your brother's experience in Australia, because that, to me, obviously we see the videos and we I think, understand what's going on over there, but it's got to be absolutely ridiculous. So I'd love to talk to you further about that down the road. Real quick, just to wrap up, though, if you could tell us a little bit about Turning Point USA and what you guys are doing. I know you have a ton of programming going on now. We interviewed Morgan Zegers a few weeks back. Actually, it was like 2 months ago already. I'd love to know what you guys are doing, though.
Yeah, well, first off, Morgan Zegers is great. Been working with her quite a bit with TPUSA Live. We have a lot of fantastic contributors here, and people that are very well versed about what's going on in the world, very intellectual. But we just started a brand new live stream program called TPUSA Live. It's just about 3 hours of content live every single day, Monday through Friday. And I host a show right after Jack Posobiec has a show called Human Events Daily. Jack Posobiec, obviously, if people listening and watching this program don't follow Jack, he is a must follow. He is a must follow. So you got to do that. Right after, I have conversations with people on the couch, discussing about what's happening in the world, pop culture, news, politics, everything in between. And honestly, we've had over 1 million views in just 2 weeks of programming. So a lot of people are really enjoying these unfiltered, uncensored, real conversations, because people don't have those enough. Because sometimes you listen to somebody on the news and it's like, hey, you got 1:30, couple minutes to tell me about what's going on with immigration. You got a few minutes to tell me about this, but not enough conversations are being had where it's like, hey, it's chilling in our living room at TPUSA HQ, discussing what's happening in the world with some very smart, intellectual people, and it's been great. And then I also have a show with Turning Point USA called Breakaway. It's a sports show where I've invited a bunch of different athletes, media personalities, and people involved in the sports industry to talk about how sports needs to get back to being unifying. They get to share their story and share their thoughts that, really no other program is allowing them to share. Because obviously ESPN's turned into MSESPN, and it's almost like another news outlet, and people need that. But TPUSA Live has really taken off. It's been an incredible journey. It's been a lot of work. I'm tired. I don't get a lot of sleep. But I'm really, really thankful for the people that have tuned in and the conversations that we've had so far.
Yeah,
Awesome.
That's really cool, and I'd love to, like I said, I'd love to talk to you further because I think we got about 40 minits in today. I feel like we could have done about 5 hours, so I'd love to talk to you again further.
No doubt.
Yeah,
no doubt.
I love talking. Clearly, that's what I get paid for.
Awesome. So, folks, if you're watching or listening, TPUSA Live, find Jon Root and a lot of his great colleagues, and Breakaway Sports Show. Who do you got coming on? Who do you have of late on your Breakaway
we
show?
We just had Aubrey Huff on last week. It's funny, he got deplatformed from Instagram the morning of that episode. And then we just had Cash Daniel on. He's a former star linebacker from the University of Kentucky. We have Tito Ortiz that's going to be on. Steve.
Oh, that's cool.
Nice.
Yeah, Steve Weatherford.
I'm a big UFC guy, so that's cool. I like
Tito,
that. Yeah.
Tito's great. Yeah. A lot of big time guests. I don't want to give them all away, but those come out every Tuesday at 4:30 Pacific time. So
awesome.
Very good. Well, we can't thank you enough, Jon Root, for coming on with us. TFG Truth special episode here. TPUSA contributor Jon Root. Keep up the good fight. I know you have a huge reach, and I hope it continues to get bigger and bigger, especially on those college campuses. We all just need to step up, as you said, and I think that's what we're all hoping for. We're trying to spread the word, right, all of us collectively. Folks, thanks again for tuning in. Thanks again for listening in. We will be back next week, as Mike said, with Cochise County, Arizona Sheriff Mark Daniels. Thanks again, Jon, for joining us.
thanks so much, guys. Appreciate it.